DeepSeek released something that isn't a model, and honestly, that's the part people keep missing. It's called DeepSeek Harness, or DSH for short, and it's the layer that sits between a model and your actual computer. The files, the terminal, the tool calls, the loop that keeps the agent going until the job is done. That layer is what Claude Code is. That layer is what Codex is. DeepSeek just open-sourced theirs under MIT and told everyone to go build on top of it. A harness is the body, and the model is the brain. And that split is the reason two people using the same model get wildly different results. The model just predicts text. The harness decides what tools it can reach, how much of your codebase it sees, when it's allowed to run a command, how many times it retries after a failure, and when it stops. Claude Code is a harness. Codex is a harness. Cursor, Klein, Aider, OpenCode, Gemini CLI, all harnesses. Most of them are built the same way, which is a fixed core with a few hooks bolted on where the authors decided you're allowed to customize. You can add an MCP server or a config file, but you can't touch the agent loop or the session store. And with the closed ones, you can't even read them. DeepSeek went the other direction and made every one of those pieces removable. So the honest place to put it right now is not better than Claude Code. It's a different category. Those are finished products you subscribe to. This is a frame you assemble, and you're paying for that flexibility with setup time and rough edges. The star count is what got most people to look. On launch day, it was sitting around 27,500. 2 days later, it was past 95,000. And currently, it's sitting at 190,000 stars. A lot of headlines called it the fastest launch in GitHub history, and I'd be careful with that one, because nobody at GitHub actually confirmed it. The growth is real and it's fast. The record claim is just something that got repeated until it sounded official. Everything is a plugin, is the whole design, and it's not marketing language here. Models, tools, skills, sessions, sandboxes, storage, the scheduler, the agent loop itself, and even the web interface are all plugins. There's no privileged core sitting underneath that you have to patch. It runs on a framework DeepSeek built called Cordis, which handles mounting and unmounting plugins and tracking what depends on what. So if you don't like how the agent loop works, you don't fork the project and maintain a patch forever. You swap that piece out in your config and leave everything else alone. Getting it running takes about a minute if you already have Node installed. Open a terminal, go into whatever project folder you want the agent working in, and run npx at deepseek-ai/dsh web. That pulls the package and starts a local server on 127.0.0.1, port 3080, then opens your browser. If you're on a remote box over SSH, it just prints the URL instead, since your SSH client owns the forwarded port. There's a --no-open flag if you don't want it grabbing your browser. And one thing worth knowing before you run it: the process treats whatever directory you launched from as its default filestim location, so don't fire it off from your home folder unless you actually want that. Running from source is 4 commands if you'd rather see the code first. Clone the repo pnpm install, pnpm run build, then pnpm dsh web. The build step prepares the artifacts, and the last command just uses them without rebuilding. First screen you land on is Settings, and you'll want to go to Settings, then Models, and paste an API key. DeepSeek's own key comes from platform.deepseek.com. It takes effect right away, no restart, but the harness is model agnostic, so you're not stuck there. There's a providers page in the docs covering custom OpenAI-compatible endpoints, which means OpenRouter works, and local models through Llama work too. That's the part that actually matters long-term. If something better ships in 3 months, you point the config at it and keep your entire setup. The thing that trips up almost everyone on the first run is the workspace. You have to click Choose Workspace and add a project directory before the message box will even let you type. It's not broken, it just refuses to run without a defined folder. Once you pick one, you get the chat panel, and you can group multiple sessions inside a workspace and organize them into folders. There are 4 modes, and they're genuinely different, not just presets. Standard gives you the full toolset, and that's what most people will live in. Code mode, sometimes called PTC, lets the model write actual code to orchestrate several rounds of tool calls in one program, instead of firing them one at a time. Minimal strips it down to a shell tool and a file editor, which sounds useless until you realize it's built for benchmarking a model in a bare environment where the harness isn't doing any of the lifting. Creator mode lets you inspect the running environment and test Cordis plugins in memory so you can build new modes conversationally without writing a package from scratch. Trajectory view is the feature I'd point at if someone asked what's actually new here. Everything the model sees goes into an append-only event log. System prompts, the reasoning, every tool call, and its result. Sub-agent scheduling, and every single context injection. You can open it up and filter by source to see exactly which plugin produced which action. And because it's a real event stream and not just a chat transcript, you can resume a run, fork from an earlier point, search through it, or replay the whole thing. Anyone who has watched a coding agent go off the rails at step 12 and had no way to find out why will get why that's useful. Plugins exploded faster than the stars did. Community devs were already building during internal testing, around 300 plugins before it even went public. Within days, there were over 1,000 repos carrying the DSH plug topic tag on GitHub. One community directory called Oh My DSH was tracking 1,117 curated plugins across 1,521 monitored repos. Another auto-updating catalog, Awesome DSH, is scraping the whole topic and sitting north of 2,600 repos. You've got desktop shells, design system plugins, network exposure plugins that let you drive the agent from your phone while your desktop does the work, and yeah, somebody made a Windows XP retro skin. Now the part nobody says loudly enough. None of that is vetted. These are random repos from strangers that plug directly into a runtime with shell access to your machine. Read the source before you install anything, especially the ones promising network access or credential handling. And on the same note, don't expose that web interface past localhost without putting authentication in front of it. It can run terminal commands. Localhost only is the default for a reason. On performance, DeepSeek reports V4-Pro scoring 87.9, on Terminal Bench 2.1, 74.1, on Toulathlon Verified, and 71.1 on DS Bench Full Stack. V4-Pro is a 1.6 trillion parameter mixture of experts model with 49 billion active per token. And V4-Flash is the smaller one at 284 billion with 13 billion active. Both handle up to 1 million tokens of context. Solid numbers, and still a step under Opus 5 and GPT 5.6 on the tasks where taste and polish matter. There's a head-to-head test floating around that I think is the most honest data point out there. Same prompt, same afternoon, one-page website. The harness on V4-Pro finished in 11 minutes. Claude code on Opus was still going at 30 minutes. But DeepSeek burned 483,000 tokens to get there, against roughly 48,000 for Claude at the 20-minute mark. That's about 10 times the tokens for a result the testers agreed looked less professional. The saving grace is that DeepSeek's per-token price is somewhere around 56 times lower, so the whole build cost about 5 cents. Cheaper in real money, worse on the page. And here's the catch that got buried under the launch coverage. 3 days after giving away the runtime, DeepSeek raised V4-Pro API prices. Output tokens went from $0.87 to $3.96 at peak rates, roughly a 4.6 times jump. Even the off-peak rate now sits above what the old peak used to be. Free harness, more expensive fuel. That's razors and blades, and it's a completely legitimate business model. But it changes the math for anyone who read open source and heard cheap forever. Where I'd actually use this is volume work and anything disposable. Internal scripts, bulk refactors, draft passes, scraping, and reformatting. Evaluating a new model in a controlled environment. Anything a client is going to look at, I'd still run through a mature harness because the polish and the accumulated design taste in those tools is real, and you don't get it for free just by swapping in a good model. The other genuine use case is teams that need to audit what their agent did. MIT license, self-hosted, full event log, no telemetry by default. That's a compliance story that closed tools can't tell. Version 0.1 also means version 0.1. The README says in capital letters that there will be compatibility-breaking changes, and the repo is still churning through release candidates. There's a Python SDK in the docs, and you can delegate work to other coding agents as sub-agents from inside it, treating them as tools rather than competitors. But if you're thinking about canceling a subscription that's currently working for you, run this alongside it on a non-critical repo for a couple weeks first. What I keep coming back to is that DeepSeek didn't just ship a competitor, they legitimized an architecture. Composable agent runtime, auditable session logs, swappable everything, and no vendor deciding what your agent is allowed to become. Whether this specific repo wins is almost beside the point. The pattern is going to stick, and now anyone can run it for the cost of tokens.